Alright geezers, Jules here from FGS, home of the Future Games Show, and you know what? There is one phrase that is rolling around my tiny rat brain at the moment, and that is that cheaters will never prosper, and how it is a complete fallacy. That's just not true. I mean, look at any of the billionaires that exist on this planet to see that that is clearly not true. There are cut corners and cut lives, basically, that are building their empire. Still, soapbox aside, it is something that we teach children from a young age, that it's never good to try and cut corners or use other people for personal gain, especially if it is through duplicitous means. But unfortunately, those same children are likely playing video games that basically undo all of those teaching, because you know what? Sometimes the computer can be a right cheating bastard. So let's take these tricksters to task. As I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are 8 video games that were dirty cheaters. And of course, this is going to be laden with deep cuts, baby! So stay tuned. Yeah. Like jazz. Let's go.
You like jazz?
Number 8, Ridge Racer 64. Now, we all know that when it comes to racing games, this genre is filled with tricks and techniques that are designed to give even players in last place a fighting chance. From rubber banding, which gives those at the back a speed or handling boost, to item drops that dip off in usefulness as you reach the front of the pack, the aim of the game here is to keep things competitive without veering into bullshit territory. It's just a shame then that Ridge Racer 64 veers directly into the back of you and then speeds off completely unfazed at all the damage that it's caused, the utter prick. Now, for the most part, this is a phenomenally fun arcade racer, but when it came to unlocking new cars through rival races, the AI clearly fitted a new license plate to their ride that read C11E8TER. Do you get it? Like cheater. My god, that was torturous. Kinda like these races, to be fair. For a start, the game gives a supreme boost to the AI's rubber banding abilities, meaning that if you mess up a turn or don't go flat out on a straight, you'd be seeing this sweaty digital hog hovering right around your tailpipe. Yet on top of this, there's a nasty little feature that will stop you dead should you bump into the rival car, as your vehicle will slow down dramatically if it so much as grazes it. Now, the rival car, on the other hand, well, it doesn't slow down one iota. All it does is wiggle its little body right in your face and then just speeds off, farting exhaust right up into your face. But here's the problem. You've slowed down, it's sped up. That's bad enough, right? Well, wrong. It gets worse because it uses this information aggressively against you and will routinely drive into you from behind and then phase through your car and then just blitz off into the sunset. You bastard! Number 7, Eternal Champions CD. So here's the thing, I could have easily filled this list with entries from fighting video games, mainly because when it comes to late game encounters or indeed final bosses, there are so much stanky cheese moments going on here. It's like trying to fight your way out of a fucking fromagerie. Instant teleportations, one-hit kill moves, unblockable attacks, all are fair game for these unfair fighters, it seems. Yet today, I'm going to talk about a deep cut that honestly needs more attention for how utterly deranged its final boss encounter is. Say hello to Eternal Champions for the Sega CD. Now, I won't lie, there is actually a reason why Eternal Champions isn't doing the rounds like the latest esports event, and that's because it's kind of like the equivalent of trying to eat that goop from the Matrix. It'll definitely sustain you, but you won't be enjoying one f***ing second of it. And to cap off all of this gruel with a side of plain crackers is the Eternal, the final boss who, as the name suggests, isn't a fan of accepting defeat and will, and I can't believe this is actually real, respawn 8 different times during this final showdown. Now, every other enemy in the game is defeated in the usual best 2 out of 3 format, but the Eternal comes along and just says, nah, mate, nah, absolutely fuck that, because I'm going to come back 8 different times, and also fuck you, because each of those 8 different times I'm coming back with a different move set. Enjoy eating my fist, you idiot, you sweaty, dirty idiot. Oh, and I can turn invisible, by the way, so enjoy that too. But wait, there's more, because today, if you order one bullshit final boss, we'll throw in another free of charge, as in the Sega CD version of this game, you have to then face the Dark Champion, who was added into this version, who is a harder version of the Eternal and comes with its own multi-phase boss battle. In total, you will fight these 2 combatants 19 times, and you can't lose once. At this point, this many respawns, that is most definitely cheating. Number 6, Toy Fighter. So, before I blow a gasket, let's talk about another fighting game, but this time it has a little bit of a twist, because here in the video game Toy Fighter, it's not just the computer that can cheat. In fact, it encourages the player as well to get down and dirty before the fight even begins. Let the good times roll. So you know how in most fighting games you get a nice little stage sweep and then a countdown that starts the round? Well, Toy Fighter also includes this feature, but adds in a new slant to the action, in that you can straight up ignore the countdown and get a cheap shot in before your opponent is even ready. These moves, called dirty attacks, come with a points penalty, but my lord is it fun to batter your mate before the action has officially started. And trust me, when you're going up against the computer AI, you're going to want to get the lead as soon as possible, as they will not hang around either. Now it can make for a rather stomach-churning moment as the camera sort of like swings into place and you're already landing your first combo out there. I mean, look at that one. That was a real solid one right there. Great DPS that right there. But still, it is something that if you can get your head around, you will definitely love, because there's nothing greater than the guy just going like, start, and he's already on the floor just pounding him with like, stop, he's already dead. Good times, eh? And speaking of dirty cheaters, before we go on to entry number 5, don't cheat yourself out of more gaming content like this, by the way. We put a lot of effort into the deep cut, baby, every week, and it would be great to see you support the channel if you enjoy it, that is, obviously. So don't do yourself dirty, don't cheat yourself out of a good time, and subscribe to the FGS YouTube channel. Come on, mate, come on, geezer. Please. Anyway, number 5, Quake 3 Arena. Now, in the current era of online gaming, or as it's also known, How to Swear 101, it seems like you can't even enter a lobby these days without somebody telling you just how many ways they'd violate you with a courgette. But you know what phrase would cut harder than calling somebody a default or a basic? A screen watcher. That made me shudder all the way back to the release of Time Splitters 2. You see, this might be an old gamer moment, but being called a screen watcher was akin to being a social pariah, as it meant that you were being accused of watching other players' actions on their section of the giant TV and using it to preempt their moves. And surprisingly, the cries of "no, I'm not" never seemed to hold water. It was as humiliating to be called on as it was evil to actually partake in. But you know what? It turns out the AI was doing the exact same thing, as in Quake 3 Arena, the AI bots can see you through walls and read your every bloody move. Now, to be more specific, the higher the difficulty that you put it on, the more accurate and more of a read on you the bots will get, to the point where if you put it onto the highest difficulty, they actively track you through walls, which is kind of hilarious, because the moment that a single shredded pixel appears on their screen, they will hit you with perfect accuracy. Now, normally, I know that there are a lot of players out there that would see this as a great challenge to hone their skills against a rather unfair enemy who is clearly cheating, but things get real bad with the introduction of the railgun, because that is a one-hit kill weapon. So you can see, the ability to see through walls and kill something the moment that it sees it with perfect accuracy is maybe tipping the scales a little bit too far in the computer's favour. Number 4, F-Zero. With the recent release of F-Zero 99, what better time than now than to look back at the original classic and sigh in loving appreciation for how utterly brilliant it is. Although maybe, my friends, we should change that exhale slightly, because if you played the original game on higher difficulties, that wouldn't be so much a sigh as it would be a scream for how utterly unfair the AI is in this game. Seriously, it is ridiculous. For starters, every single AI opponent has their handling and speed set to maximum, meaning that they will never, ever mess up a turn and always will be hitting those straights at blistering speeds. And in some unlucky cases, it means that simple boosting and pinpoint cornering just somehow won't be enough for the player to win. And that is insane, right? With certain vehicles, you could be playing the game perfectly and still lose. But much like when a group of clowns drunkenly crash a wake, things are about to get a whole lot worse, as it turns out the AI are also completely and utterly unkillable, meaning that if you were hoping to knock them into a barrier to remove them from the race, well, you'd bounce right off them. Even knocking them mid-air into insta-kill pits won't work, because they will ghost back onto the track as if nothing happened. Hey, maybe this was just a prototype of the Skyway from F-Zero 99, right? No, it was just the computer being an absolute cheating asshole. Number 3, Final Fantasy VII. Now, it's very common to feel cheated by Final Fantasy VII, what with the unsurprising, it was definitely surprising, Jules. Now, it's very common to feel cheated whilst playing Final Fantasy VII, the original one at least, because with the death of Aerith being an unavoidable and completely unforeseen moment that takes an actual valuable party member out of action for good, you kind of just left there going, oh, Okay then, thanks for that. But you know what, my friend? Maybe we should have seen this coming, because there are a few spit-covered breadcrumbs that the game leaves as a trail way before this. To give more context, I'm speaking about the mini-games you can find in the Gold Saucer, the gaudy amusement park/casino which the gang visits fairly early on in their greater quest to stop Sephiroth. At first it seems like it's all fun and literal games. That is until you come up against 3D Brawler, a rock, paper, scissors style game which has you battling increasingly tougher opponents. Yeah, here's the issue. Did anyone else find that they could only last like 10 seconds against the game's fourth opponent? You know, the guy who kind of looks like Strong Bad if he was just subsisting on a diet of anabolic steroids? Well, it turns out that the game was rigged from the very start and you were never supposed to beat this guy, because the game is cheating you. You see, the opponent reads your attack the moment you press a button, and it's down to random luck as to whether you'll score a hit, be countered, or struck back for your troubles. And it's here that you're probably thinking to yourself saying, oh, well, luck is different to cheating, so how does this qualify for this list? Well, pal, it qualifies because the fourth opponent reads your attack so quickly and stacks the deck so heavily against you that you've only got a 0.98% chance of winning. There's no tricks, no tactics, and nothing you can do apart from just pray to RNGesus that you may make it through. And here's the thing, if you didn't think that that was cheating enough on the computer's behalf, well, the fifth opponent definitely is a cheat, because it technically doesn't exist and forces you to lose. Because there's actually a bug in the game that's meant to be a fifth opponent, but you can never see what it is, and so it becomes this sort of like ghost fighter that Cloud is pitted up against, and you can't actually ever score the 10 hits you need to finish the game, so you must go for a low hit and lose the game on purpose. So even when you win in 3D Brawler, it cheats you out of a victory. Thanks. Number 2, BATEN Kaitos Origins. Now I ask you, my friend, is there anything more synonymous with the act of cheating than a deck of cards? Well, outside Mike Tyson's love of chewing on ears, that is. Of course not, is the answer, because as long as there's been a deck of cards in play, there have been those who would look to manipulate the order, read the odds, slip in some extras, and of course, lie through their teeth in the process. Even when card games are transposed to the digital realms, they're no cleaner, and players often found themselves absolutely done in by the wicked ways of the AI behind BATEN Kaitos Origins, an RPG which used a deck builder mechanic in order to influence its battle system. Now, while this approach to combat was entirely refreshing, the AI behind all of this was entirely stanky, and I hear you ask how, and it's because the AI can read every single card you've got in your hand at any one point in time. Now, I know that you're probably thinking to yourself, maybe that's not so much of a bad thing, maybe it just uses that to make sure that fights are winnable, that you don't ever go into a completely unwinnable scenario. No, not at all. In fact, it uses that to inform the enemies on who to attack most and give the most aggro to, and it does so by going, who has the most healing items? Let's take you out first. You're not meant to know that I have the healing items, and yet you're suddenly attacking this party member like there's no tomorrow. So yeah, it can make for some rather frustrating battling, because when you lose your healer early doors, this isn't a fun fight anymore. It's hard not to feel like you're being cheated here at every turn, mainly because you 100% bloody are. And number 1, Mordheim, City of the Damned. And so we close on a staple that's even greater than my love of deep cuts, baby, and that is the obligatory Warhammer entry. And this time we're dropping the far-flung grim-dark future of Warhammer 40k and coming right back in time to an era that puts the evil most definitely in medieval as we talk about Mordheim, City of the Damned, and how much it fucking hates you. Now, Mordheim isn't exactly the place that you'd want to find yourself for an... Now, Mordheim isn't really the place that you'd want to find yourself in on a night out on the jazz juice, as it's filled with dark and winding alleyways, rotten corpses piled high, and locals who would slit your throat for a flash of copper. Kind of think Gateshead, but slightly cleaner, and I can say that because I live there. It's not very nice is my point, and when it comes to the actual video games based on this tabletop gem, it's not very nice either, because it will cheat you rotten just to punish you for trying to have fun. It turns out that thanks to a data miner called the Brutal Butcher, that Mordheim's RNG system is based on a piece of in-house code called Tyche, Tyche, Tyche. And how do I describe this piece of code? Well, it wants to beat you to death with your own shoes. And I say this because the RNG system in Mordheim favours the computer over the player, and statistics like chance to hit that it will display are completely meaningless, as instead it will just decide then and there whether you've hit or not, and most of the time you will not. Brutal Butcher even gave an example saying that a 95% chance to hit should mean that only 1 in 20 misses, not about 2 in 5, which is exactly what Mordheim does. Pretty rough, right? And things get even worse when you start factoring in persistent warbands, because that's what this game operates on. If you lose a party member, then going into the next battle, if you haven't replenished, you'll be one man down. And that is definitely a problem that can completely stack the odds against you. But you are the only person who plays by these rules, apparently, because even when the computer loses nearly all of their warband, they'll be back in the next round completely staffed up, with sometimes the same characters just returning from the dead with all of their skills intact. To call this bullshit is definitely an understatement. And again, it gets worse even still because the AI then just goes, well, you know what? I've got no risk of losing or caring about my henchmen because I'm just going to bring them back again. So it throws them straight into the action again and again and again, forcing you to kill them, but often at the expense of your own troops. Cheers! I love a game that forces me to lose in such dramatic and horrible ways. So all of your tactics, all of your ploys and cunning mean absolutely duck egg in the face of such a cheating and manipulative AI. Wicked. And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 video games that were dirty cheaters. I hope you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules, and you can go follow me over on the social medias over here, and you can follow my editor, Kayla, over on the social medias here. Please do so, because she is absolutely lovely. Now, here's the thing, my friend. Before you go, I just want to say one thing. There's one thing above all else that you should never cheat yourself on, and that is just being kind to yourself. Take some time out of your day to do something entirely for you. It's okay to be selfish in small amounts where you just go, look, hands up, I'm done with this situation, this is me time. We all deserve a personal 5, all right? So do not feel bad about taking that. Put your feet up, put your favourite movie on, put some music on, just relax, unwind, because you deserve it. And then you can go back in with extra energy, extra perspective, because you've actually allowed yourself to rest. So it is very important. And as you can tell by me right now and how tired I look because I'm not feeling very well at the moment, I'm going to go get some right now. Big love to you. See you next week for another deep cut, baby.